Good morning, sir.
Okay, let's start from where we have stopped yesterday. In the last class, we started with the DNS. I'll just quickly run through the slides. DNS stands for Domain Name Service or Domain Name Server. So DNS is basically a hierarchical approach where you have got the root DNS server and then you have got respective domain DNS servers. Domain DNS servers is .com is one, .org or .edu, it will go. And there are country-specific domains also nowadays. And below that, the most downmost, you have the authoritative DNS server. That is the DNS server who belongs to the particular domain. Okay, if you have google.com, Google's DNS server is the authoritative DNS server who can tell the authentic information about Google's servers. Okay, so that is what authoritative DNS. And it is a hierarchical approach. Why it is hierarchical? Why it cannot be in a single machine? All these points we had discussed in the previous class. Okay. And then the DNS, the domain name resolution, we have seen in two ways. One is recursive way, and the other one is iterative query. Okay. In the case of iterative query, each time the response will come back to your local DNS server and he will resolve it for you and send it to you at the end. Okay. So the order you must remember, and in each of this communication, what is happening also you must memorize. And then you have got recursive query. Recursive query, your local DNS server also will get back the information at the end. Then he will send it back to you. Okay. Then we have seen as and when a communication is received by a DNS server, the DNS server will make a note of it and it will be recorded till time to leave is ending. Time TTL value ends. Okay. And now, all of you please make a note of this. All of you please make a note of this in your notebook. I'll just wait for a few minutes. I'll wait for 1 minute for you to just note down this and then I'll continue. All of you make a note. Okay, so let's stop writing and listen to me now. So you have got the resource records. It's one of the important concept in domain name service, a domain name system. The resource records. The resource record has a format of name, value, type, TTL. Okay, name is something like say cisco.com. Value is something like its IP address, say 74.16. Whatever be the IP address of google.com, and type is one of these four which is written below, that is A, NS, CNAME or MX. Okay, so that is one of the type. One of this value will be there in place of type. Then you have got one more field that is called time to live. Time to live is how long one can hold this record. That means whether it is in your computer at the end when it is resolved, how long it can be solved, how long it can be kept in your computer buffer, or when it comes to a DNS server, how long it can be kept in the DNS server's records. So that within this time, if somebody else requests for this particular same website or same domain name, it is not necessary to perform a recursive or iterative query to resolve it. It is there in the local database itself. That is how DNS servers will build their database over a period of time. Okay, so that is the advantage of keeping a DNS server within your organization itself. So once if you keep a DNS server within your organization itself, it can actually resolve and store the names in it so that the next user, when he is browsing, it will not get checked. Okay, and there is one more scope for this. Before this TTL gets over, the DNS server by himself, he can verify whether the record is still valid or not instead of waiting for a request from a client. Okay, so that option also will be open if this TTL is used effectively. Okay, now let us come to the types. Type A means it's an ultimate response. That is, name is a host name, value is IP address. So type A, if it comes, I mean, that will be direct mapping of this domain name to the IP address, or it is definitely a reply from an authoritative DNS server. That is the end reply. There is nothing more to request out of this. Anyway, all of them are authoritative replies only, but type A is the most desirable one, which we are very frequently using. Then the next one is type is equal to NS. So name is a domain. Value is a host name of authoritative name server for this domain. So this will be the NS type will be replied by most probably one of the top level domain servers. It's not replied by the authoritative DNS servers because if the type is NS, then definitely that will be the authoritative DNS server's IP address. So suppose you have given Cisco, you want the IP address of cisco.com. Okay. So from your computer, it will go to your provider DNS server. From there, it will go to the top level root level. From root level, it will go to top level. Top level is obviously .com server because we have requested for cisco.com. So now that top level domain server will reply saying the type is type value is NS and the value will be authoritative DNS server of cisco.com. Okay, the name will be www.cisco.com. So the IP address is not the actual mapping of what's so called www.cisco.com. Rather, it is a authoritative DNS server. So if you look at the previous explanation, so this reply you can see. I'll go back to here. So the type NS reply will come from here basically, right? I mean, not in this diagram. In the recursive one, it will not come in picture. But here in the previous one, the iterated query, it will come in picture. So the top level fellow, this fellow will reply. The fifth reply will be of definitely of type NS. Okay. So you are expected to explain with the help of all those things. Okay. Now the type 6 reply, I mean the request 6 is a request to the authoritative DNS server. So reply 7 will be obviously type A. So the reply 8 also will be obviously type A. Okay. Not necessary to be type A. As of now, it is type A. It may be MX or it may be CNAME also. Okay, that possibility is there. Anyway, now the third type is CNAME. So the name is an alias name for some canonical name. Some actual name may be represented by using some what do you say, some pet name or some easy to remember name. So here they have given one example. So for example, www.ibm.com is really server east.backup2.ibm.com. So the value is a canonical name. So in this particular example, you will get value as the value. Here it is ibm.com, www.ibm.com, that is the name. Value will be the actual name, servlet.backup2.ibm.com. Type will be CNAME. TTL value is not relevant. So once this such a reply comes, your computer ultimately or your local DNS server will again look for serverlet server east.backup2.ibm.com. Okay, and for that finally he will get an type A reply. So that is how canonical name will be handled. CNAME is handled. Okay. Now the last one is type is equal to MX. Type MX stands for if the name is a what is a mailbox, then it will be of type MX in the reply. Okay. So for example, you can mail me s_ullas@blr.amrita.edu. Okay, blr.amrita.edu has to be resolved now. So when it is resolving, it is actually resolving mail-blr.amrita.edu. Okay, so the mail server is different. So when such a reply is coming, it will be type MX. Okay. Are you clear with all these types? Now you please read it once again. This is one of the important topic. I'll wait for 1 more minute again. Okay. So let me continue. Any doubts so far? Okay. Now next is DNS protocol format. So all of you must study the formats of protocols what we are discussing. Okay. Already we had seen the formats of HTTP, POP, IMAP. So compared to all of them, HTTP and DNS are little important from this chapter. Okay. The other ones you cannot neglect, but compared to that, the header format, these two are more important. Okay. So DNS, you will have a query message and you will have a reply message. Okay. DNS, you may have a query message and you have a reply message. So for a query or for a reply, the format is same. You need not have, you don't have two different formats to go ahead. You are lucky enough. Okay. So you need to memorize only one format. So if it is a query format, some fields will be used. If it is a reply field, some other fields will be used. Okay, based on the field which it is using, the functionality differs. Okay, so you have a query message and you have a reply message. The first field here is it's a 2-byte field, 16-bit field. It is a 16-bit identification number. For a query, what identification number it is being given, the same identification value will be used when the reply for that it comes. Okay. Now, whether it is a query or reply, how do you understand that? By looking at the flag fields here. Okay. We don't have the flag field specification here. There are 16 bits. Out of 16 bits, maybe the first 3 or 4 bits will decide whether it is a query or reply. Next 4 bits, if you set, if it is a query, then whether recursion is possible, recursion is desired. Okay, recursion desired in the sense, maybe your DNS server, when he is sending, DNS server will say, please get it through recursive query, not through iterative query, because if it is iterative query, he will have to wait for each reply from root, TLD, and authoritative. If it is recursion, then he need not have to bother. It will go to the next fellow. Now it is next fellow's burden to get the IP address resolved. So whether recursion is possible, and the third flag is whether recursion is possible or not. In certain cases, certain servers will say recursion is not available. So when such a query goes, the DNS server will send back a reply saying that a reply will come back saying recursion is not available. So the field value will be set as 0, as simple as that. Then reply is authoritative. So for that also there is a flag field. Then what are the domain names you want to resolve? It is possible to have multiple names can be resolved in one query. Okay, though it is not very commonly used, it is possible. Then the answer RRs. If there are multiple domain names to be sorted out, then the answer RRs will be multiple. Say for example, if you are browsing, say Gmail, you can see on your right top with all other options like Google Drive, Maps, all those options, and obviously all of them are different web servers. So all of them would have sorted out, or all of them would have resolved in one single question, single query, and in one single reply itself. Okay. Then authoritative RRS and additional RRs. Okay. Then we have it in next actually. Okay. Then name type fields for a query. Name type fields for a query. RRs in response to query. For a reply, the answers will come. For a query, this will be filled up. Okay. Then here it is actually the numbers will be specified. Okay, the replies are here only. Records for authoritative servers and additional helpful info that may be used. Okay, so this is the format of a DNS protocol. Do you want me to explain any field in particular? Okay. Next is inserting records into DNS. So suppose you wanted to start a website. You wanted to start a web server name. Then what to do? Okay. So you will have to reach out to DNS registrar. You have to reach out to DNS registrar. That is some services are there. Say Network Solutions is one fellows who maintains the RRs. Okay, RRs. So they provide the names and IP address for authoritative name server. Okay, so you will have to provide the names and IP address of authoritative name server, primary and secondary. If you have two authoritative DNS servers, you may have configured as, you may have to configure them as primary and secondary. Then registrar insert two RRs into .com TLD server. Okay, so the network.com, then the DNS server's IP address. Okay. So these two things, it will be added up. Okay, and whoever browses or requests for the web server, it will get resolved later. Okay, is my voice audible? It's too noisy at my side actually. Am I audible, guys?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry for the disturbance, which is I can't help. Okay. Now next is the noise is actually increasing. Shall I pause for a few minutes? Let it come down. Okay, welcome back. Sorry for the disturbance. It's reduced now. So now let us see what are the attacks related to DNS, domain name service. So one is distributed DOS attack. So the distributed DOS attack, I think once we have discussed what is this distributed concept itself. Okay. The first thing is the attacker, what he will do is, that's a general structure of distributed attacks. Okay. They will compromise other machines. Suppose if I am an attacker, what I will do is I will attack first, or I will compromise with or your some 10 of yours computer I will bring under my control. Okay. Then what I can do is I will send DNS request from 10 of your computers, or from all the 10 of yours computers I will send DNS request. Okay. Now imagine if I send thousands of requests like that from some 100 computers like that. It's all software driven. Okay. So the server will get stuck because there is a limit for the server to handle the requests basically. Okay, every server will have such a upper limit. So it is beyond that upper limit. So what will happen is, or the computers which are under my control will take over the control of DNS server. So the actual users will not get the service. Okay. So that concept is what we call as denial of service. The actual users will not get the service, but service is up and running. Okay, service is up and running because my 1,000 requests are getting resolved, and server doesn't have time to serve for other actual users. Okay, are you clear with what is DOS and what is distributed DOS? DOS is from my single computer I am sending such thousands of requests. Distributed DOS is I use another 100 computers surrounds to me to request to the server. Okay. So that is what you use the word distributed. So these are the two types. Is it clear, guys? DOS attacks. Okay. So your top level domain servers or your authoritative DNS servers, you can choke all of them. Okay. Then next type of attack is redirect attacks, man in the middle attack and DNS poisoning attack. Okay. So man in the middle is when I am sending a request, it will go to a DNS server and DNS server will what do you say, will forward that to some other computers, or finally what happens is my request will not get responded back. That is what we call as man in the middle attack. Okay. Or the next thing is DNS poisoning. So I'm getting a reply saying that for the web server address what you have asked, this is the IP address, but that may not be the actual, that will not be the actual IP address, but that entry will get stored in my local DNS server, as well as it may be stored in my computer. As long as that particular entry is there in my table, the website will not get loaded. That is what we call as DNS poisoning. Okay. Then exploit DNS for distributed denial of service. So send queries with spoofed source address. Okay, spoofed source address. That means I will send a request. But the source IP address will not be my IP address. It will be some spoof IP address. So what happens when the reply comes? It will not come to me. Okay, it will not come to me. But the problem is, I have initiated a communication, and my computer will be waiting for the reply. So again, my computer will send. So this will keep on happening. And if it is happening from multiple computers, then that is what we call as exploiting it by using distributed system. Okay. So that is what attacking DNS. Okay. And the rest of the topics are not part of our syllabus actually. 2.6 we need not have to go through in depth, but anyway, I'll just have a brief look into it. And 2.7 we will discuss in lab basically. Okay, 2.7 is lab portion that we'll discuss in lab class. You will have to do socket programming. Okay. Now, peer-to-peer architecture. One of the famous example for peer-to-peer is BitTorrent, which you are very familiar with, I guess, and streaming some website. I'm not used with this service. Then VoIP is another peer-to-peer architecture, whether it's a WhatsApp call or a Skype call or Messenger calls. All these are VoIPs basically. So what are the advantages of peer-to-peer architecture? So far we have seen server-client architecture, right? HTTP, FTP, TFTP, DNS, SMTP, all this DNS. In all these cases, we have seen server-client architecture. Now we are looking at peer-to-peer architecture. So no always-on server. So that means no dedicated server. Usually, when you say server, it has to be always up and running. Okay, it has to be always up and running. But in this case, it's all peers. Nobody is bigger than anyone else. So it is all on equal status. And arbitrary end systems, they can directly communicate. Peers are intermittently connected and change IP addresses. Okay, because the clients, they don't have fixed IP addresses. None of our computers in the home, we don't have a fixed public IP addresses. As and when we connect each time, the IP address will get changed. Okay, and it is not a dedicated IP address. And the IP address what we are using are used by multiple people in the same provider's side. So there is no what do you say, authentic or single IP address. That is not the case with server. That's one requirement of the server. It has to have a dedicated IP address. Okay. Now here is one example of the comparison is there. So this you must actually understand, okay? This you must actually understand. So let us study this. This slide and the next slide is you have to understand. The coming 2-3 slides you will have to understand. So a little mathematics here. How much time to distribute a file of size F from one server to n peers? So you have only one server. Look at here. Is the mouse pointer visible, or should I make it as a laser pointer? Okay. So here you have a server.
Mouse is not visible, sir.
Okay, I made it as a laser pointer anyway. So you have a file server. You have a file server here, and there is a file size m bits. Okay, I'm talking bits, not byte. Okay, f file size, and it has got f bits. Okay, and the server upload server capacity is US, okay, and there are n clients here. Each client will have to download it, okay, each client will have to download it. So US is the upload capacity, server links capacity, this link's capacity, okay. Say this link may be of 1 GB of capacity. Now 100 Mbps, if you are downloading from 10 computers, only 10 computers can download at a time. That's what it means. I'll repeat my statement once again. Listen carefully, okay? You have 1 GB link here. The US may be 1 GB. That is 1 GB is 1000 megabits per second. Now, let me assume that this U1 or D1 is of the D1 is of say or this link is of totally of let me assume it is 100 Mbps. Now, if all of them are just downloading without uploading anything, all the clients, only 10 computer can download, correct? 10 each computer has 100 capacity to download, and 100 into 10 it will become 1000. So it is perfectly matching with this fellow. So without anybody waiting here, okay. Suppose if one fellow is 10 MB, another fellow is 100 MB. So to download, you have to count the time of the 10 MB fellows, okay, the maximum time. He will take the maximum time, right? You understand the point? Say one fellow is 100 MB, other fellow is 10 MB of capacity. So 10 MB fellow will take much more time to download it. Though server is having 1000 Mbps. Okay, it's of no use then. Okay. Now say the upload capacity of computer 1 is U1, download capacity of computer 1 is D1. Okay. See, in our homes we are using asynchronous connection. You all call it as ADSL modem. Asynchronous data connection. It is asynchronous data connection. That means asynchronous means upload capacity is different and download capacity is different. In our homes, usually we use download as more. Okay, what we are getting from internet is much more than what we are uploading to internet. Uploading, ultimately we may be just sending www.google.com, or we may be sending an email. Only little content is going from our side to the server side or to the net side, but what we are downloading is very high. So to make it more cost effective, the internet service providers, they give asynchronous connection. So the download capacity they give more, but upload capacity will be less. Okay. Whereas if you have if you are maintaining a server in your office or in your company or in your house, then you must have to go for synchronous connection mostly. The upload and download will be equal. Okay. So the leased line connections, what we have in our college, okay, it is a synchronous connection. So synchronous connections will be more costly affair. Okay. Anyway, that's just for your general knowledge what I said. So the U1 and D1 capacity can be different. That's the point I am telling you. U1 is not necessary to be equal to D1. Okay. So I hope you are clear with this now. What is DAI and UI? Now let me move on to the next slide. So here the time how much it will take for a server to send the files to the client. Okay, must sequentially send, that means upload n file copies. So all these fellows are downloading a file of size f. Okay, time to send one copy is f divided by us. Okay, time to send one copy by this server is f divided by us. Okay, time to send n copies is n into f divided by us. That is ideal at server side. Okay, the best optimistic time what it takes, n into f divided by upload capacity of the server. Okay, now next thing is how much it will take, how much time it will take by the client to download. How much time it will take by the client? One client, how much time it will take? F divided by D of minimum. The download capacity, the minimum download capacity of all these fellows. Okay, the minimum one. Some fellows will get quickly, but some fellows will get late. So the minimum, how much it is, that is what we can calculate. F divided by D min. So out of this, who is the highest? Whether NF divided by upload, the time what this fellow takes to upload, or the lowest fellows download, which is the highest here, that value is the time it will be taken usually. Okay, so that is download capacity time.
Sir,
Yes, please go ahead.
sir, you said about time to send n copies, no, sir?
Yeah.
So let us say that 10 people are downloading a file from internet. Whether it is 10 people or 100 people, if their network speed is same, the download speed should be same for everyone, no, sir? So it's not n into f, it's only f by u, no, sir?
No, it is not the same. Tell you the reason. See, the file transmissions we are using the connection-oriented communication. Okay, uh, uh, what you are saying will be correct. Actually, I'll tell you one example. You are saying it is not necessary to multiply by n, right? In that case, what is ideally required is one packet will come to the central place, and in the central place, a computer has to make 10 copies and send to all the computers. That is not happening in the network. Instead, what is happening actually, this fellow will send the same packet n times. Same file n times it will go. So one copy will come to this fellow, another copy will come to second fellow, another will go to third, and likewise to the nth fellow also it has to go. So it requires n times communicated. That is the reason we have multiplied with n f by u. Is that clear?
Yes, so that is why the server is getting lagged or what, sir, when we are trying to access something in the browser.
Exactly. Say for example, uh, I'll tell you one example which will be easy for you to understand actually. See, you are when you are writing exams, maybe all of you are getting same question paper. Am I right? But
Yes.
the question paper, if 160 of you are accessing the question paper, 160 copies will go from server. It is not one file is going out. Got it?
Yes, sir, but how is it different from when we are downloading a game like 100 MB file, like I am downloading and we are doing it in lab. So that is also like this only, no? So there is there 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 is no some n copies thing. There is only one thing and n people are downloading.
No. It is n copies are downloading. Are you talking about a network game?
Anything in the network, sir.
No. If
Or
you're talking,
at least a YouTube video. It is also in the network, no, sir.
no, if it is YouTube video, then also the same video is sent to all the 10 computers or all the n computers. So n copies will be sent from the server. For each computer, it is an individual connection as such.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, sir.
you just think on that, you will understand it easily. What you said is correct. I'll tell you in a different scenario. If the server is sending one copy and in the network, if it is copying and sending to everybody, it will work out. Otherwise, no.
Yes, sir. I will also search, sir. I got sir, what you said.
Okay. It is little tricky to understand, but you have to think and understand it. Okay. So if number of computers increases, your time also increases. Now the same thing, what happens if it is peer-to-peer communication? Okay, what happens if it is peer-to-peer communication? So here server transmission must upload at least one copy. Time to send one copy is F divided by US. And once this one copy is uploaded, to some computer, now your server is 2 now. Okay, say you have sent one copy to one computer, so that communication is over. Now the same file is available in 2 computers. Now this peer who downloaded it can be a server for somebody else. That is the advantage of peer-to-peer communication. This is what actually you do in torrent communication. Okay. Each client must download file copy. So the minimum client download time is F divided by download minimum of client. Okay. So now clients as aggregate must download enough bits. Okay. Maximum upload limit is clients upload limit, the upload of the server plus clients upload, total aggregate clients upload. Did I explain it in an understandable way, or should I redo it once again? I'm not confident that I explained it in an understandable way. Okay, I'll put it once again. What I'm saying is, see, to send one copy, how much time it will take? F divided by U by S. That there is no doubt. We have seen in previous slide also. One copy you need F divided by US. Now, if one copy is gone or some bits are gone, okay, maybe the partial file is available in some computers. Once the partial files are available in the computers, they can be the servers. They can also start upload. Okay. Now your total upload time, how much it will be? Here one server is there with US upload time, and U1 is upload time of computer 1, U2 is upload time of computer 2, U3 is upload time of computer 4 or 5. Likewise, UN is upload time of computer N. Okay. So now what is the total upload capacity? US plus U1 plus U2 plus U3 plus U4 plus UN. That is why sigma UI is mentioned here. US plus sigma UI. UI varies from 1 to N. Is that clear? Now what is the time it takes? Maximum F divided by US, F divided by D min, and NF you are multiplying NF divided by US plus sigma UI. So the maximum of these three, 1, 2, 3, it will be the upload time. So if you go for a distributed, you can see that it will drastically come down. The upload time will come down because it is a distributed effort. Okay. And maybe this will be little more clear when I explain how this will be little more clear when I just tell how BitTorrents are working. So the comparison study is like this. It will go on a linear line if it is client server. If it is peer-to-peer, as and when number of computers, number of devices increases, it will decrease actually. Okay. So that is how BitTorrent has become a big success actually. Okay. So if you are asked to compare peer-to-peer and client server, you are expected to do this to the previous slide and this slide along with this diagram. Okay. Now in a BitTorrent application, what it happens is there is a server. Once the server is sends few data to some of the clients, now that client will become servers for the others. So at every time, say now let's assume that there is an existing system. Now a new user, say named Alice, is arriving. When Alice arrives, he starts with the server basically, and server will tell who all are the peers who have the same file. So now what Alice does is Alice communicates to another 3 or 4 computers. At any point of time, it will be communicating to 3 computers, and randomly it will check with another one more computer every 10 seconds or so, and will check is that fellow better than the existing 3 fellows. If it is better than existing 3 fellow, the lowest bitrate fellow will be removed and the new fellow will get added. That is how Alice will manage the download. Okay, that is about BitTorrent. You can read textbook, it is elaborately explained once. Okay, anyway, that is all what I wanted to explain with this chapter. Rest all parts are not part of syllabus actually. Okay, so this is what I said. If one fellow is of lower speed, it will get removed and then new fellow will get added. Okay, I'll just download your attendance. Okay, you can leave for the day. I mean, from this session, we have done. If you have any doubts, you